And probably about 10 to 15 people give up because it's not easy. We went from nothing to everything, and we was like, we don't even have a VA, so we're doing everything, like just the two of us on like 14 properties at one point. You don't want to be the richest guy in the graveyard. Just this month, 55 turnover.
5 as a turnover, the business.
We sometimes have review books, and one of them was, this apartment was amazing, had everything we need. My mum is terminally ill, she's dying, and this has been a beautiful moment to share. Like, this property has just served them something priceless. I mean, I've had armed police kick a door in of one of my units. Yeah, I had the full-on, do you know what I mean? Like the full-on armed police, a unit. I was all good. Someone had died in the unit next door. But I turned up, I give them a knock, and it was an absolute shithole. It was like literally squalor. The sofas were together, all the cushions were on the floor, excrements like on the bedding that had been stripped. Within the bedding, like there was urine, like it was, I can't even explain it to be honest with you. There was a DJ deck at the start of the door, vodka, alcohol, drugs all over the gaff. It was just like a blitz. Matt, I'm kicking these out, trust me. So I called him and I said,
well, this is probably a very unheard story in service accommodation world. I have got Matt and Jamie, Matt being my past client. Jamie also is a partner in the business now, and we've never spoken, Jamie, but I think it's amazing to have two person, one being my client, one not being my client in this podcast. But guys, firstly, welcome to my little podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, firstly, really thank you for taking time out your busy schedules to come and see me.
Yeah, absolutely, I appreciate it. We were literally working in the car on the way here.
You were? Well, let me ask you something actually. How's Bournemouth and Sandbanks?
It's nice.
beautiful, yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You can't beat the view, can you?
You can't beat the view, which is first thing. I think sadly it's been a slightly bad weather for you guys. However, I think today's going to be an amazing podcast day because these guys, I think some little things I want to put in here. These guys have done over 26 units, 20 live with 6 coming in next week in less than 4 months of operation together. So firstly, I think this podcast will give you guys loads of value, but guys, congratulations on the flow that you guys have grown your business.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Well, it brings to, how did it all start? One of you guys go on.
You go.
Yeah, so it all kind of started with networking. We were both networking like mad, trying to build relationships, trying to build people to work with. It's all, you grow better as a team.
Yeah.
And I started out as a deal sourcer. I just wanted to source a couple of deals and enjoy life. Treat friends, family, drive a nice car.
Yeah, well, let me stop you there. What's a deal sourcer? Because you've just said deal sourcer. Many people might not know what a deal sourcer is.
Basically, people would come to us just saying, I need a property investment. That'd be SA, HMO, buy, refurbish, refinance kind of deal. And I would go out and I'd find them and charge them a fee.
Cool.
And I didn't have many investors at the time, but I had plenty of deals, being rent to SAs. And he had investors, and we was at a networking event. I said, I've got deals to sell, and he said, I've got investors and no deals. So we teamed up, we sold some deals together, and that kind of kick-started working together on that. And then we sold a rent to SA, and the guy wanted management. And that kind of kick-started that as well.
Amazing. And Jamie, for you, because I think what I like about Matt early off camera, he said 2 people go together further and quicker. Like right now you're so busy that you've got a VA, you've got a team, like it's now getting out of hand slowly. So ridiculous. How did it feel for you when, I guess, Matt was also probably a part of this, going like, let's do this together, and like whose conversation was that?
It's a good question. So whose conversation was it to kind of come together?
Yeah.
So I think not very long after we had a conversation about sourcing a deal for a client, I had 3 SAs down in Brighton, right? And I said to Matt, did he want to come down and have a look? So we took a drive down, kind of showed Matt around the properties, and we just kind of started talking property a bit more together, and staging and designs and ROI and just this kind of lingo. And we were like, this kind of works. Like we're quite natural here, quite naturally working well. So we kind of then just started doing a bit more together, having more conversations, just spending more time together, and then closing more together, and just doing more. So it was kind of natural, it kind of just fell together.
Love that.
Yeah, no one ever said let's manage together.
Wow.
We never said let's work together.
How amazing. Because Matt, just to go back to my journey with you, I remember when I worked with you, it was just Matt. There was no Jamie at that point, right? So when Matt came and said, oh, you know, Jamie and I've got this going, I'm like, and then he's texting me every week going, I've got a couple of units going on, and I'm like, he's sending me the link, and I'm like, what is this guy doing all of a sudden? And I thought, do you know what? What a way to grow the business. What a way to grow the business. And I think, today, there's one thing I've always thought about growth and quick growth, and I want to bring that straight away. Like, you've had a rapid growth, right? 4 months, 26 units, 20 units live, 6 going. What does it feel like? Let's go back to the basic.
It's overwhelming, yeah. Overwhelming is the least to say. We can't constantly, every day, we just pinch ourselves. It's just, you know, only today I was like, bro, go back like a year ago. Like on the drive here, I said, go back a year ago. He said, Matt, go back 6 months. I was like, Jamie, what about 2 months? Yeah. Like, it's just ridiculous growth, and it is unheard of. So our response rate on Airbnb is less than 10 minutes. Yeah. We tested it the other day. We made an account because I wanted to see if it says anything, like what our response time is, and it says this person responds in less than 10 minutes. Good. And we try and stick to that.
You want to stick to that. So going back to, so I think the journey that you've just mentioned about your car, and like, for me, I wake up every day till date, and this is my 10th year in business. Nice. And
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I genuinely wake up every day and go, actually, do you know what? I've never gave up on certain things in life, which could have been easy to do because a lot of people will do it. And I said to myself, actually, I'm not going to do it because I've got other bigger purpose in life to do, i.e., you know, everyone knows it. My family, my dad and mum's like the most important thing in my life at the moment. My partner, you know, she's opened a state agency. I want to be the knowledge behind her. She's doing everything herself, but it's nice to have someone who's got the experience of business to go, actually, maybe we should do it this way. I've always believed that let someone do certain things their own way and also guide them in a certain way. And Matt, I think for you, and Jamie for you, what I want to talk about now is like that first 2 units, right? That first 2 units, just talk about your journey, like, because people want to know, like, what did it look like? How did it come about? All these things that somebody's watching right now going, I want to be able to do that first 2 units, not the 20 that you are on.
The 2 we got together.
Okay, well, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the first 2?
So I had a few prior.
Okay, well, the 2 together.
2 together, yeah.
2 together. Well, the thing is, we didn't go from, we went from 1 together to 5 together to 10 to 14 to now 27.
Okay, let's talk about the first 5 deal then.
What a good problem to have.
Yeah,
what a good problem to have.
So, I mean, I'd definitely like to delve into the first one because that we put our heart and soul into, and which is what kickstarted the journey.
Yeah.
We did so much for that. We staged it for free. We didn't charge a go live call. We didn't charge for it. We did so much for that, and it's been like literally fully booked for like the last 4 months, to the point we've only just had our first void gap, which was only like 5 days.
Okay, so let me just go back. You said you did a lot of work for free.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
I think you have to work for what you're not paid for to be paid for what you... I don't know the saying. What's the saying?
I know what you mean. I don't know the exact words, but you're saying you're adding value. Yeah,
you got to add more value than you're receiving back to grow, right? Yeah. And that's what we were doing. That's how I feel like how we've grown so much, because we were just helping so many people prior to even managing, prior to selling loads of deals or anything like that. We were just helping, just like, what's your struggle? How can I help? And I think that's a massive part of the growth, is just the fact that we were doing stuff we weren't getting paid for.
Because we were paid in knowledge, right? We were paid in experience, we were paid in contacts, value, all of it. And I think when you enjoy something so much, you're not going to stop them doing it.
No.
And I think for us, that hunger and passion came from the enjoyment of creating spaces, from creating homes from home, from...
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Communicating, creating relationships with companies, hence why we have so many direct clients right now.
Good. Okay, well, look, I think we talk about a lot of service accommodation. I like to break it down because people watching here going, well, what does Matt's friend say about Matt though? Like, I know you as the guy who scaled, like, is my past client, Jamie. I don't know you, but I know that you had service accommodation business. Now you both are like big, like, you know, scaling so quickly. Probably one of the fastest growing management company right now that I know. So let's now talk about what does someone say about Matt who doesn't know about you as a property entrepreneur?
I would hope they'd have a nice, caring person. I'd hope.
I agree.
Yeah, I would hope they would say I tried to do my best and help as much as I possibly can. I mean, that would be what I'd hope.
Yeah, no, good. And what about your like past? Because I remember when we worked, one of your unit didn't work, and you had to go. And if that's okay for me to say this, but we had to go back to employment.
I did at one point, yeah. Yeah, I did.
And that was purely, you said to me, Piers, this is going to be like a 5-week job and I'm going to get back come out of it without worrying about it.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that, because I think what I realised with you was you were never like a person who would say, actually, this is going to happen for a reason and I'm going to move on with bigger and better things.
Absolutely. I think everything happens for a reason. I mean, I'm never going to give up, right? Because I've seen it so many times. I've got so many friends around me that started property journeys similar time, and you know, sadly they did give up no matter how much help I gave them.
Really?
So I've seen it a lot. I've seen probably about 10 to 15 people give up. Because it's not easy. It's really not easy. Like, me and Jamie work 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, and like, it's just non-stop. Even when we say, for instance, yesterday we said, oh, Rory, this is the first time we've got nothing to do for like however many months. And then we were going to go and watch a movie, and then I went, Jamie, all the Ring doorbell cameras are flat, and we've not systemised that part of the business yet. We're working on systemising this, and we've completely forgot about Ring cameras. So we ran around like 5 of the properties, taking all the Ring doorbell cameras off. There's probably going to be on the news, someone's stealing Ring cameras from East London.
Yeah, Jamie and Matt running through those, yeah.
So we took a load of them off and started charging them, and that basically went from not being busy to having something to do. We try to constantly do something, so we are working on systemising the whole business, but it's a slow process.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing people don't talk about in service accommodation is charging Ring doorbell cameras.
Yeah, you're right.
So
a lot of time they don't, and which as a result can... Actually, my last podcast we did, my client said like they didn't have their first Ring doorbell, and they ended up with like a massive party and stuff. So we'll come back to in a minute about some kind of special guests you've had. But Jamie, I would like to ask the same question to you. Like, actually, I've not worked with you. I know Matt very well because, you know, I love the guy. He calls me when he feels like, and that's what it's all about, Matt, right? I don't know you, so I'd love to know, what do people think about, like, your close family friend talk about you?
It's an interesting one. I think they think that I'm absolutely non-stop, relentless in whatever I put my mind to. Very creative, crazy imagination, very visual background in creation and design kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I always have time for people. I always like to understand where people are from in life, because I believe we're all walking stories, essentially. Everybody's just essentially a walking book, and we are essentially what makes the world spin to some degree. So for me, it's just trying to find relations between the ships and move forward with everybody, right? Yeah. I often say it's not the destination, it's the journey. Like, it's better to travel well than to arrive. And I kind of live by that. Yeah,
I love that. No, thank you. The reason why I asked this is it's because the way you've grown, it's always got to do with something who you are as a person. I've always realised that. Like, for me, I've always said to myself, if I didn't have moved to the UK, or my dad, you know, for whatever reason, he said, okay, well, just live in Nepal, and he had a great life because he was a retired Gurkha, he had loads of pensions and stuff like that, so he didn't really have to move a country for his kids, right? If he didn't want to do, well, he wanted a better life for us. And I always lived by, like, saying, you know, my parents would always hope to say that, you know, I'm a hardworking person, I'm loving and I'm caring, but if I put my mind to it, I would achieve it. And that reflects on, you know, what I'm doing today with our clients, with Matt, with many clients I've worked with. I will not give up. You know this, Matt, and I've always said to anyone, like, if you're my client, you drain whatever I've got from me to make sure that you get the best out of this process. So look, that I think because you've got a very weird 0 to 5, well 5 to whatever, and then growth. What does the business look like now? Like, what does Jamie's and Matt day to day look like?
Non-stop. Like, I think where we grew so quickly, a lot of people, they go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and then they slowly systemize each one. So then they get a VA at number 5, and then and then they get another VA at number 10. Like, we went from nothing to everything, and we was like, we don't even have a VA, so we're doing everything. Like, just the two of us on like 14 properties at one point, just us two, and it was non-stop. Our days were non-stop. We woke up at 6 and we went to bed at 1. And we were just phone calls, emails, phone calls, helping people, onboarding new people, updating the listings, optimizing listings, changing this, changing that, and it was crazy. We only got a VA when we got to 14, but then had to train her. So then we were still optimizing listings, still doing everything, but then plus training a VA. It was ridiculously non-stop. Only to the point now that we thought by hiring a VA we'd have less to do, but now we found what we didn't manage to do, now we're doing that, and now it's just still crazy busy that we're like, we've just hired the first one, probably gonna have to hire the second VA already. Good. So the day-to-day is ridiculously non-stop still. Yeah,
and again, with business partners, I think that's something that's always, because I've worked with a lot of business partners together, and everyone brings like their own attributes and strength. So I know you said you both didn't decide we're going to go on, but at some point you had to call your brand name One Stop Management, or
that was his idea.
Yeah. So what? Okay. Well, then that's something that I'd love to know. Like, was there any responsibility decided in the business when you both went in, or how did? Because there's loads of people right now who's watching this who are friends together, really hustling to get their first unit. Yeah. How would they kind of make it work?
I think a business partnership it's very different to a friendship. Like, you can be best friends but be the worst business partners. Yeah. And I've seen it a few times where it's like, oh, that's my sister, or that's my brother, or my mum, my dad. Like, I've teamed up with them. I've known this person since I was in preschool. I've teamed up with them, and it goes very bad because you're great friends but you're not great business partners. And I think me and Jamie kind of, I don't know, we just weirdly just clicked as friends and business partners, but had the same kind of idea of growth mindset, to the point I just feel like we get on like a house on fire. It's very hard to find what me and Jamie kind of bring to the team. Like, it's very, very, very hard. I don't know if there's many people like that would connect kind of like that. It's, so I
love that. What about you, Jamie? What do you think?
I vouch what you said. Yeah, I agree. We're both, at this point, we're very much fusioned in, because we've had to just get on with what needs doing. Whether it's mostly your strength, mostly my strength, we're very like, we just get on with it now. And there's no complaints. We have to do, you have to do. I think naturally, I'm more a creative self, and I think naturally you're more kind of on the calendar with the guests. Yeah, I think that's where we play to strengths. But now, like, we can move around a lot because we just have to be malleable, right? I think as soon as you become still and stagnant, there can be a lot that goes against you. And so you have to kind of learn to work with and be in flow state as such.
Yeah, for sure. And like, again, the reason why I ask you this is, again, going back to the viewers, because like you said, there's either a brother or sister working together, brothers working together, they're friends, like child. And it is 100% true. I've had bad partnerships, and Matt, we've had this conversation about a week ago about this, right? I said, for me, the relationship I have with you guys is much more important than that deal that I could have done with you, although there is a money to be made, with or without me. Does that make sense? And something that I said to you as, Matt, I want to make sure that I have a relationship with you and Jamie ongoingly, because that's what I want to see in the coming years, and that's what my vision is. And I think, so people watching this, I think for you guys, I think I really love what these guys are doing in terms of just being open and honest. Well, there's no really right or wrong in here. This is what we need to do and go and achieve. And that's what you're doing at the moment as a business. But once you hit that 100, maybe that wouldn't be a case. Yes, you will both be in the business. You will both be growing it, but there will be times when you can't both do the same things because the business is going to outgrow you both.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think me and Jamie we have our job roles to a point, right? But I think like Jamie's point is to get what people want to see.
Yeah.
Right, what do people want to see? That's his creative mindset. And mine is like, well, how are they going to see it? So that's how we click so well. But that's not the end of our jobs. It's like, Jamie, I'm busy in a meeting, I got to take calls, can you jump on?
Yeah.
Matt, I'm busy, I'm doing this, that, can you jump on? It's, too many people get stuck in, no, that's my job, that's all I'm doing, and that's where the business falls apart.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, but I need your help. Like, it's 50-50, but sometimes you need to give the 100, and because I can't give my 50.
Yeah, because the business needs.
It's business
the
needs.
business needs rather than what you want to do and your responsibility behind it. And Matt, I think from your growth I've seen, one thing I've noticed with you is not only you wear a gift, like you will always help people and add value, and you've spoken to me about the amount of people you've probably helped for free, right? And you genuinely for free as well. It's very nice to now see that you've been able to optimize that to your business, because these people are now coming back going, oh, Matt told me about this last, or somebody's probably telling, oh, Matt was the one who introduced us to this, maybe go and speak to him a bit, and Jamie in the same case as well. So I guess, look, to make it a little bit more fun, there's always 4 things I talk about in my podcast, right? Health, wealth, love, and happiness. I want to talk about health as an entrepreneur because you are both good-looking lads in this podcast. And now, I've got to ask this question. Ivan's looking at me going, yeah, so Ivan's behind the camera. Well, I've got to give them the compliment. Remember, the reason why I ask you this is, it's, as an entrepreneur and health, like I've probably been quite worse with my health over the last few years, up and down.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are now in a very busy schedule.
Yeah.
How do you maintain your health? Yeah, go on. No.
we drink this water.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what? It's quite bad. We'll probably go majority of the day with not eating and drinking. It's we're kind of in the position right now of kind of just business growth. It's very bad. We'll probably work all day and then 10 o'clock at night we'll go have a Nando's and be like, we haven't eaten all day. So we're currently living on Nando's, KFC.
if we're lucky enough to be able to, time-wise, yeah.
Okay.
So
now my next question is, do you think that's sustainable?
No, absolutely not. No. Everything has an expiry date, right?
Yeah.
And that's we've had a lot of chats about that.
Yeah.
Systems.
Yeah.
So we started, as we mean to go on in terms of implementing systems.
Yeah.
There needs to be many more. Many have been discussed and early days with them, but yeah.
No, and thank you for sharing that, because I always say to myself, like, at what point enough's enough?
Yeah.
And like don't get me wrong, our business needs us, but then really, is it worth allowing our health to not be the right? Is it that challenging mindset of going, well, if you're not feeling that great, you are pushing yourself because you're like, oh, I want to do this, right? You enjoy doing what you do.
Yeah.
But at some point your body will give up.
Yeah.
And one thing I was always told as a kid, you don't want to be the richest guy in the graveyard.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree.
But it's hard to, it's easier said than done, right? When you're growing a business and the business relies on you so much, it's very hard to just go to Tesco for 20 minutes, because that 20 minutes it can be very different. Yeah.
Is the inquiry
Is the inquiry. Like, if we left that inquiry for 20 minutes, they would have gone elsewhere and we wouldn't have had the $7,000 booking.
I've loved that. And drop it that and then the $7,000. Let's talk about that, just because I think we've brought that conversation, because you've just made a referral. So firstly, this property is fully booked.
Yeah.
So would love to understand a little bit more.
So we arrived here early, and we just got a message off of one of our clients.
Yeah.
They needed something for 53 nights.
Wow.
They wanted to stay in our 3-bed. And well, I was about to say sadly, but not sadly. That's fully booked until mid-October. So we were like, you can't stay here, but we work with other people. And passed it on to another client of ours that has the property available. So then we
what have you made on just referral?
So that was £550.
Wow. And Matt, JB, I think one thing I've always said to you, Matt, as well, is the reason that we build a brand is for that exact reason, right? When you've got more leads, do you know what? I've got loads of clients, initially till I tell them the hack, they're like, oh, we're fully booked. We just say them we're fully booked. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing you've said that. Yeah. But you've also missed a commission that you can pass it to somebody else. So I think going back to, I think we want to drop this here, but going back to the health that we were talking about, we, as a business owner, what's one thing you can think of right now that you can do better because for your health? Because there's people, everyone watching right now, and even myself, I make this training videos and stuff, but it's hard every day to wake up and not think about your business.
I can't go 5 seconds. I've had to move my phone over there because I'm on it. I'm glued to it.
Guys, Matt, I've told him to leave his phone on the side because he's extremely busy, and Jamie is extremely busy, but we can't afford to not take time off and relax, right?
Yeah. I think we definitely need to try and utilise maybe meal prepping or something along them lines because we don't eat all day. Yeah.
Have you? Yeah, amazing. So a meal prep, which is a great way to optimize. Yeah, but again, when you're starting and you're thinking about again the business all the time, you're thinking, well, I don't have sometimes, and it's genuine. I didn't have the money when I first started, so we're talking off camera about my mum's food. Yeah, that kept me going for the early days, and that everyone's got the other. Now I love cooking. I've always been a massive fan of going into kitchen in a therapy, as in it's like just walk in there, forget about work, and then just start cooking. And it took me an hour to. Some people go, actually, because it's a waste of time, but for me, actually, I spend more time enjoying that, cooking a meal out of it, the one that I like, but also it's took me out of work. So let's talk about wealth, and this is a different topic for you guys because I think the business that you are in at the moment and the money you guys are making, I don't exactly know how much, but I know I've seen a little bit. I would love you to, and this is very, I must say to everyone, for these guys have done amazingly well for themselves, but also it's a big challenge and responsibility behind this process. So let's talk about some wealth here, right? So let's talk about the figures. So what are you guys currently doing?
I mean, including bookings passing on and
absolutely everything as revenue.
Everything.
Just this month.
Just this month. This month was our best month, but some of the properties have only just gone live.
Yeah. So they haven't been considered.
But 55 turnover.
55 as a turnover, the business.
So that will be from passing on bookings. So our clients' funds, and then our management fee will just be 15% of that.
Amazing. And how does that feel to you from, effectively, I would class it as a 0 to 55 in 3 months, 4 months time?
Three and a half, yeah.
3.5 months, yeah.
6 properties aren't included within that either.
Yeah.
So we've even had a couple of deals go through the past week that we sold.
Yeah. So we got two deals going through as well. So that's £6,000 right there.
Yeah.
But that's not even including that price.
No, because it's a completely different business
company,
model, right? And business, wow. So how does it feel? Like, I genuinely want to know, because that scary part of doing that kind of revenue as a business is, it's not normal. It's
quite crazy. We do have to realise, like, wow, this is real. Like, we still try. We're quite humble people. We don't do it for the money. We're not going, oh, let's keep growing the bank. Because that's just the first way to just start failing, because you just care too much about the money, and then your clients are not happy. And we're just trying to continue rather than helping people, rather than just keep making more money. We don't really, we're just at the start, and we don't really do it just to keep making millions. Like, we'll probably get there one day if we keep growing like this.
No doubt, absolutely no doubt. On the way you are, you're already looking at, the growth and stuff. You're probably going to aim for doing 500,000 anyway. No doubt about it, very quickly, and then get into that million mark. And I think the wealth side for me, like I always say to anyone I bring down to Sandbanks, like, that house there, which is on Airbnb right now, on summer month, did £1,000 per night. On Airbnb, right? And I've seen it, and I also see people checking in over the weekend, also in the weekdays, and I'm thinking, okay, wow, right, this property's here in terms of wealth that we're talking about. Like, it really shows how powerful the business model is. It also shows how powerful, and you know, the fact that I've worked with you, Matt, and Jamie, I know you've worked with Matt before, so now it all comes together. But for me, I genuinely believe the way you've grown your business, you both, it's something that I haven't seen in the UK yet, right? And it's fair play to you both on this, and the hard work that you guys have put into this business. So let's move on to a little bit different. Love. I know it might be a little bit a different topic, but I know I like to bring it because two young entrepreneurs, right? And I'll talk about my love because I think, you know, Lolo, who's my partner, runs a estate agency business. You know, I love her to bits, but I think the biggest thing I found with two partners running business together, even like it's a household of business then, right? I think the reason why, and by the way, it could be love as in just doesn't have to be a partner, but like your thoughts around you are busy right now. Yeah, there's lads out there watching this video who might not be able to go and find love. Like, what does it look like for you both?
Well, you've got to talk about this start because let me take a sip.
Take a sip.
Yeah.
What does love look like? Jeez. Yeah, I think right now, unless you're in the journey of property, of entrepreneurship, I don't think many people would understand, you know, how busy you are. Like, it's quite easy to sell a partner, so I can't talk to you, I'm on the phone. They don't understand that. I mean, currently, the only love I have is probably Jamie.
I love that. Do you get a heart sign send over sometimes? Deal closed.
That's the thumbnail. Oh.
Yeah. That's the thumbnail there, the wrong one as well.
It's brother love, I guess.
Brother
from another mother. So yeah.
No, that's good. No, fair. Look, the reason why I say that is I did the same. My first 3 years, I had no chance I would be able to go and find someone. You know, and look, everyone's done this, so we can't say it, but you probably fancy someone at that journey of your point, but you can't go and, I think Ivan's here a good example. When I had my estate agent, they used to all laugh at me. Look, he's still laughing because, because honestly, the reason why is I used to spend so much time working, not looking after my health, and I loved the business at that point. But the love I had was definitely what I call my family. I think, you know, and everyone's got their own love to them. And Matt, I think what you just said is like the point I've always related to, and I think the fact that you guys are saying it. And Jamie, what about for yourself?
I mean, I think it's slightly a deflection to what you're asking, but it's also relative. So I think being an entrepreneur is interesting. It can be the most fruitful thing. It can be the most exciting. It can be the most exciting lifestyle being an entrepreneur. Yeah. But it can be the most isolating and lonely. Yeah. And I think that's the cold reality. It can be so lonely. As well as so exciting. Yeah. And I think for any entrepreneur, I think it's easy to lose yourself. So I can only give you this if I have it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I can't give what I don't have. Yeah. So when people are wanting things, or you're looking at wanting to obtain things, if you haven't got them, it's sometimes difficult to give that. Yeah. And if you don't have time,
you can't.
Can't give what you haven't got.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm following a guy called Daniel Priestley, and this guy, have you heard of him before?
No, I haven't done any social media.
No. Do you know what? He's recently big on social media, but before that, I think he's run a couple of very big businesses. And Daniel Priestley is a father of 3, and he's got a wife, and he's built his business from scratch with a wife and kid, and made it to a couple of million, and now owns a couple of millions of property and businesses. And that, for me, I was like, how the hell? And I've been trying to, because I'm now moving into a different part of my life at the moment of, you know, having my partner for years and our future and stuff. And I think it really shows to me how he's done it, and I want to study someone who's been able to do that. So it's quite fascinating how we all can think about different stages of life, and maybe in a couple of months or years when your businesses are even growing and you guys are busy, it might be a completely different conversation to have, and we'll remember this conversation together to say at that time you were just busy building your business, right?
Part two.
Yeah, absolutely, we'll come up with a part 2. And happiness, I think my question to you is, what makes you happy?
Dominoes just came to my head. How
Love
sad
that.
I'm craving Dominoes.
Yes, I love
Somebody
that.
say.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, happiness. I think it's like seeing the results that you've worked so hard for. Again, it's business. The answer is a business answer.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Because I feel that as well. But it's so.
It's natural.
It's natural for when you're in this mind frame, and your framework is wired to that. Yeah. When you're results driven, happiness is when you get the moment to just take it 10 minutes because you just got some results over here that you've put so much
Dominance
into.
were happiness. I'd agree.
Do you know what I mean?
I'd agree. Yeah.
Because it's I can actually now take 10 and get a pizza and eat because I've just done what I needed to do for the day. That's the happiness, because otherwise it's not like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Do
you know what? I tell you what makes you happy. Using your phone. You were a lot happier.
I didn't have a phone when I was a kid, right? I didn't have one till I was 18 or 19. And then I still didn't use it, and only until I got into business that I've now like addicted to it. I'm like getting the shakes, not having it. What makes me happy? Yeah, I think reflecting back onto how much I've grown as a person, not in business, but as a person. Like, believe it or not, like, so many people say, Matt, you're so confident. Like, how do you just speak to anybody? Like, what do you mean you just spoke to some random stranger on the street? Like, but that wasn't like that 6 months ago. Like, I isolated myself so much. And I think I always reflect back on how far I personally came. Forget the money, forget the business, forget, the success or, freedom now. Just as a person, I think that's what makes me truly happy. Knowing how far I've come and how I can just speak to anybody now. And I do owe Jamie a lot for that.
And that's amazing. Like, this is what I think off camera we spoke about. I think there's a lot more that we can talk about, and what, Jamie and yourself together as a business partner, it's just not business, is it? Like,
no.
There's like two individuals helping each other for a lot more other things. And being able to grow each other in different attributes and try and pull each other up. It's a beautiful moment as you reflect it back into that car journey you've just done here. And you were talking probably, oh my God, bro, like, do you remember that thing happened in 2 months and like this? And okay, well, let's bring it back to service accommodation, because I guess people want to go back into the service accommodation mode. Let's talk about happy guests, because you've just said that you want to reply within that first few minutes.
We had quite a strict criteria. Most of our guests get a response within a minute.
Amazing. How did that come about?
I think our first big booking because I think when we started understanding about long-term stays, long-term bookings, we had a client came through Airbnb, and they wanted 2 months, a month and a half originally. It was like 40 nights originally, and if we hadn't, and the thing is, he spammed everybody. He just spammed out. He was just like, and we jumped on the phone with the guy, and we said like, hey, how you doing? What's your reason for stay? Blah, 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 blah. Had a long chat with him. He was like, wow, I've just spammed out to like 50 people in the whole of this area, and you're the only person to respond.
It
was we closed him, and he was the one that ended up paying us like 30 grand within a month. Because he ended up paying for our place and he ended up paying for someone else's place.
So they basically wanted 2 units?
Wanted 2 places, but we only had one at the time.
It was like 10 or 11 contractors, right?
Yeah.
And we had a 4 or 5 beds, and
for sure.
needed more units. So
and they come back to us. They've got accommodation requirements all over now, so we just put them in other places.
Good.
So yeah, if we weren't reactive, we would have lost our booking. And the same as the one we came here. Like they probably spammed out, because when we jumped on the phone, they started talking on the phone about other properties. But if we wasn't reactive and wasn't within the minute, they would have just gone somewhere else.
They would. They would. And do you know what? I remember a story from last year. So I had 2 clients in a location in the UK. I can't say the location. Hopefully they're not watching this, but I'm going to tell it. So both of them got the lead, and one of the clients said to me, "It's a time waster, Piers," and the other client did all the due diligence, got the booking, passed it back to the client who said it was a waste of time.
Yeah. Well,
and made a commission.
And just went.
And made a commission.
Yeah.
So where they could have dealt with the lead properly and actually have converted the booking and not had to pay somebody else that 10% referral fee. And I've seen it again and again. And one of the reasons I said to you, Matt, was it's not about how you just get an inquiry, it's how you deal and how you convert. It makes a huge difference in the process, and you guys have proven this. So going back to happy guest though, that's your happy pocket because you've made £30,000 on booking. What about happy guests? Like, have you got moments where guests have like really enjoyed their stay and come back to you and called you and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have loads of happy guests.
Says
in your review, but one that you remember.
One that we remember.
One that comes to the top of me is with the essays, we sometimes have review books where they can put reviews in there when they're in the unit, and they can get a discount for the next day and 10% off, and this kind of just a marketing thing. And one of them was literally, this apartment was amazing, had everything we need. My mum is terminally ill, she's dying, and this has been a beautiful moment to share. Like, it was literally that deep. I can't remember like literal word for word, but it was like, wow, this property has just served them something priceless. And it's that moment where it's like, wow.
It's no longer just a apartment, is it?
It's amazing.
It's a memory that somebody's taken in the journey.
Yeah, we're offering them more than just somewhere to rest their head. We're offering them a family moment here that's never going to leave them. And it was just that moment. I read it in the book and I was like, wow, I'm keeping that book.
Yeah, love that. You will love that in years to come when you flip that book back and go, what an incredible memory that is for the business. Let's talk about challenging guests. We all love a bit of challenging guests.
Definitely had a few of them.
Yeah, in terms of bad guests, I mean, we've pretty much had everything. I mean, touch wood, we think we've had everything that we can think of having. I mean, I've had armed police kick a door in of one of my units.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was someone.
Police.
Yeah, I had the full-on. Do you know what I mean? Like the full-on armed police, a unit
Not
which.
In the news, were you by any chance then?
No, I was all good. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was all good. To this day, I don't know exactly why. To this day, someone had died in the unit next door. I know that much, so I don't know if they got the wrong door, but whatever it was, I had a long-term guest in there. It was the 3rd month he was there, and the armed police kicked the door in. I had to explain that one. Why is the door kicked in?
Yes.
Again, it's how you react, right? So it's, you know, I took my measures and I done my diligence and my reassurance, and I was quick with it all. But yeah, armed police kicking doors in. I had a 2-bed, it was like a steam room, the boiler blew of some description, so it was literally like just steam everywhere. The boiler went, it was like a steam room.
Wow.
And it was like so hot, it was like boiler hot water coming out of every hole you could imagine somehow. I don't understand what went on.
Wow.
But it wasn't hot water, it was like scalding hot. Talk about health and safety, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, but you
live and you become.
But you can't control that, Jamie. That's the thing.
That's it.
Right, that's something out of your control, and like you said, it's how you react, how you solve the problem. That's what's going to make the difference. What about you, Matt?
I mean, not a bad guess because it was our fault. So every unit we take on, we do a personal inspection of me and Jane. We go around, we inspect the property, anything that needs doing, we write down a list when we get it done. And we missed that there was a mouldy washing machine. There was mould in the washing machine. And the guest walked in and he blew it out of the water. Like, he was seriously angry. He was like, I've just paid, like, it was a cheaper rate as well, because he was there for 2 months. He walked in, 5 minutes later we get a call, washing machine's got mould in it. We're like, we literally we only went because we only went live, and then a day later he booked a 2-month stay.
Wow. Yeah.
So it was quite crazy, instant. And we were like, how have we missed that? Like, there's mold in the washing machine, and he's posted it all on Airbnb. We're communicating with Airbnb. We're like, you know, what do we do? This is the first time I've ever had a complaint like this. We've always had 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
Like, what's happened?
Yeah.
So we kind of tried to react quickly. Went and said, let's just buy a washing machine, a brand new washing machine. Don't even try and clean it because it's only going to kick off. So we went to go and get a new washing machine off Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. Nearly got scammed. That was funny.
Yeah. I remember the conversation.
And then I was like, bro,
You was on the way, and I went.
I was on the way. I was like, I found one. I'm on the way. He sent me this picture. It's in the back of the lorry. He's going to meet me there. And he's obviously a video editor. And he's like, that's edited photo, mate. That washing machine's not even there. It's just a cutout.
I said, dude, that washing machine has literally just been placed in the back of a random shot of a lorry. I said, you ain't going to get a washing machine. Trust me. Cut this guy now.
So
what conversation actually did you have with this guy then?
Just the fact that he's got a washing machine, I want to buy it.
You're about to press transfer, and I'm like, no.
No. So then that pushed that back. He's now even more angry because we've told him a washing machine is going to be around today, and now it wasn't until 3 days later that we managed to find another washing machine. Because if we bought a new washing machine, brand new, it was going to be like a week, 2 weeks max. So we managed to find one, put it in. He's still not happy because it's ruined his stay. It's ruined his whole entire time. He was there for 2 months. He was supposed to be there 2 months. And the only way we could get out of it was just refund him the full 2 months. So yeah, that was...
Well, I think both these stories, by the way, I think they're not really bad guests. I think it's bad like situations in the business. So I think it's nice to see that you both can't remember a bad guest.
Oh, well, I've got another one.
Okay, but think about a bad guest.
Yeah, I mean, I had one of mine wrecked. It was basically, there was a couple of listings for the same property. Yeah. And on a listing that wasn't my listing, kind of out of my knowledge. I didn't know who the guest was, etc. Okay. But they were guests of a property of my property, but I didn't know anything about them.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just had a feeling. I was like, I'm just going to pay him a visit. Yeah. So I literally, out of just a feeling, and there's a lot of this happening. Yeah. I always get a feeling, and I need to follow them more. But I turn up, I give them an up. And it was an absolute shithole. Like it was like literally squalor. Wow. I'm talking, the sofas were together, all the cushions were on the floor, like excrements, like on the bedding that had been stripped. Within the bedding, like there was urine, like it was, I can't even explain it, to be honest with you. There was a DJ deck at the start of the door, vodka, alcohol, drugs all over the gaff. It was just like blitz. And I filmed myself going in. I actually was on the phone to you at the time. I went, Matt, I'm kicking these out. Yeah. Trust me. So I called him and I said, I'm gonna video call you. I'm kicking them out. You don't understand what I've just seen in my property. This is not happening. There's grounds here. Look, there's grounds. I don't have to ask no more questions. So I went in on video call and I had a conversation. We got rid of them at the end of the... Yeah, we got rid of them because respectfully, this is not running. You can't do this. This is before the management blow. This is like early on, where you live and you learn, right? Yeah. And they essentially, from what I learned, is they had hired a DJ, and they were a month 3 to 4 week booking. It was a birthday, but they'd hired a DJ. Right. And just at that time, the Ring camera was dead. Just at that time, and I said to Matt, do you know what? I've never had the Ring camera die on me. Yeah. The one time it dies on me, there must have been about 100 students getting lit in my property, going crazy.
Always remember that though. Remember the memories you've created for them.
I'll be remembering them. Yeah. So obviously I learned a lot about the claims process as well with using OTAs and things, because it wasn't a direct. Probably fortunately, it wasn't a direct. I didn't convert them on this occasion, so there was a cover. Yeah. And I made sure that was worth it, to be honest with you, because of the how they left it.
I'll tell you what, this reminds me. So just in terms of party, I had a client who said while we're working, they said, "Oh, Piers, like I had a party," and the neighbour actually complained, found the detail online, and then called saying, like, I think they woke up to like 3 or 4 missed calls, and they obviously called back, and then they went, okay, hey, like, look, I'm just your neighbour. Last night you had like 15 or 20 people in your apartment. He did say, like, actually, do you know what? If I was like 20 years younger, I'd probably be there. That's what he said. It sounded like a great party. However, I live there. I don't want this to happen again. And he was like, look, it's only happened one time. But the neighbour actually called, and that's how they found out about the party, and then, yeah, eventually found out. So going back to what you said earlier, and how was the journey then? Like, was it just like a kick out straight away?
I didn't. I asked them not to leave until they cleaned everything.
Yeah.
And they brought friends and family over till it was as it was when they arrived.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
fair play on you. So you've done the right part, right? Because if not, you'd have told them to.
Yeah, I charged them for a deep clean anyway, because regardless, it stank. There was urine, it was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
So I just made sure they didn't leave until it was as it should have been, to be honest.
Interesting. This is the part of like service accommodation, which I think now people are a lot aware, and this is why, you know, people go, oh, you do Airbnb. Like, you know, years back, agents used to go, no, we can't have that. You're going to have party all the time. And it happens all the time still to date because of, you know, again, sometimes now an incompetent SA operator who's never done SA before, maybe don't have a camera and all that things that people sometimes try and save money, right? And that's why I guess from you guys going into that scale of management, I think what I really now want to talk about, Matt, is because we've worked together, I think it will be nice to bring some of the things that we've done together. I think people, especially, I've realised that with my videos, is people go, okay, Piers got a lot of value in, but actually, what is it really impacting a client's workflow or a client's business? So I think my first question to you, Matt, is how did you know about me?
Do you know what? It was word of mouth.
Yeah.
So I knew it from another one of your clients.
Okay.
So she said, I've just done Piers' course. It's, you know, he's doing really, really well.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, okay. Mine's hit or miss. It gets bookings, it doesn't. It gets bookings, it doesn't. So I was like, I'd give it a try.
Yeah.
I booked in a call. I wasn't thinking to actually purchase a course. I was quite low on money then.
See, can I say something? I see people say it's course. It's not a course, Matt. It's a done-for-you consulting service. Yeah. So, no, by the way, and people feel like, and this is what I've realised, with my service, people feel like course because I turn up on Zoom calls, giving you value. And that's purely why, if you replace that and take me out, or literally just focus on the work we do, and if we would have done a handover, you'd have probably felt it as like a service for you rather than an actual, you know, course as such. I think, and that's what I never want to give up. I want my clients to go through calls with me because everyone's going through a different journey. And yeah, so it's fair that you've got been referrals. So what about, like, there's numbers of things I want to ask you, and I think, Jamie, you're the third person here, so it'll be nice for you to, I think you probably had conversation with you both. Did you know about me at all?
I did hear about you through someone, actually, yeah. Someone else did your course.
Really? Okay, that's interesting. So you've and without, obviously, Matt, I'll ask you about myself. What do you know about me then? Like, I know you haven't gone through anything, that I haven't had one-to-one Zoom sessions with you, and so what do you know that I do?
I think it's
quite interesting to know.
It's the optimization side, right?
Yeah.
So it's essentially, in a simple sense, it's probably how to be seen, and then it's where to be seen, depending on what you're looking to book and when.
Yeah.
It's being seen in the right times.
Yeah, and do you not think that you could have done it yourself though?
I think...
I mean, prior to us working together, I had a few units and I was kind of doing similar things. But I think what you've kind of, I suppose yourself.
Yeah, and to one-stop management, because you're both business together now. Yeah.
Is the detailing of the specifics, because it's easy to just overlook some details, right? With your strategy. So.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you think, Matt? How was your working relationship with me? Because I really want to go deep into this, because
I think, yeah, I think our working relationship's been really, really good. I continued speaking to you after the course as well.
Yeah.
I kind of, you know, I admire building relationships with people rather than just doing someone's course and then, you know, parting ways, or done for your consultancy.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, your knowledge, like, let's just, because I remember all this conversation I've had with you on a weekly call. Yeah. Your knowledge prior to actually joining with me, what was it like?
I mean, I had no idea what I was doing.
But you did know that because you had a unit up and running.
Yeah. So, and that was working. It wasn't, but I had no idea what I wanted, how I wanted to do it. So, I was just winging it, and it was surprisingly okay. But it was like that. It was like that. Whereas now most of our units are just like that. It's like that. Keep going. Like. I think when we check our statistics now, they're constantly just growing, and you know that's from the fact that we know what we want, we know how to get it, and we know, you know.
So we build a brand. You understand how to build a brand. Yeah. You understand your guest behaviour. Yeah. You understand. So what's your average length of stay at the moment?
Yeah. So our average length of stay is 25.6 days. I don't know what the
25.6 days.
I don't know what the 0.6 is, but
yeah, well,
like mathematical average through the channel manager throughout the lot.
Across the board.
Across the board, yeah.
Wow, that is incredible. What does that mean to you as a management company?
I mean, it means quite a lot, because a lot of people, you know, they're like, you know, I get 1 to 2. We were speaking to someone earlier, they was like, our average is 1 to 3 days. And that's the problem. Like, no one wants 1 to 3 days. The constant turnovers of bedding, the constant new people, you don't know who you're getting. Yeah. You don't know why are they booking? Like, you know, if you want a 1 day, go to a hotel.
Yeah.
I think people know what they know what they get from us, because we're like, well, our average is 25 days. So, you know,
and that reflects on the way you've worked yourself through the calendar management and the profit pricing and everything we've talked about. So what's next for you? I think people watching this and people hopefully enjoying this podcast so far, what's next for your business?
What's next? I mean, BRRs, get some HMOs, continue growing the management, and also buy some of our time back is the ultimate kind of point. But I think right now we're just in the growth mindset. So I think next is more growth.
Systems growth, and then acquisition in terms of BRRs, do-ups, BMVs, adding some value.
I love that. So the word systems, I think, it sounds like now you're really heavily thinking about that as a process. And it's fair to say that you guys have mastered how to get bookings. And this is what I talk about in GrowYourBnb, because, you know, I've done it for 6 years now. So half the time I say the people who know what they know is because of me. And that's purely because, and it's not being arrogant about it, it's purely because I have genuinely sat down and do these calls with them. I've got all the recordings, I've gone through the process with them. But eventually it comes to a point, and what I like about you, Matt, and obviously now you're doing with management, Jamie, is you've taken that knowledge and you've implemented that. Guys, so I guess my question to you now is, why do you think your branding currently is so important as a business?
Trust. I think especially when you're taking someone off of a branded OTA like Airbnb that's worth billions, that they trust so much to give thousands of pounds to, and you're like, I want to save that OTA fee, come to me. And you ain't got a website, you know, you've got no trust, you've got no communication skills, they're not going to trust you. You know, the amount of clients we bring direct through Airbnb, I probably shouldn't say that on camera.
Why not? Absolutely, because remember, it's the strength you have as a management company, right? And that's something that you've got to be, like, you're not doing in an unethical way, you're just amazing at branding your business, which 90% of people don't understand, right? So going back to what you were saying, Matt, go on. And
a lot of big companies look to save the OTA fee. They don't want to pay the 18%, so they always search for you. We get it all the time. you know, they find the property, they love the property, and they go, well, I don't want that price. That price is too expensive. So then they phone you up.
It's price, and you know, the thing is, the brand that you're building at the moment is for that reason, because people can save fees both ways. You can earn more, or a little bit more, but then the person who's booking for the 26th night, they're not booking for 1 or 2 nights. 1 or 2 nights, you're happy to give it to OCAs, because you're covered really well, right? Jamie, your story is perfect, because if that was direct booking, that a lot of problem would come from there.
Absolutely.
Right? They would have not wanting to pay and all that kind of stuff. So no, really good. Jamie, what about yourself? I know you're also a creative head, so it would be amazing to understand your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I often think your first impressions are your last impressions, and I think if you kind of remember that, it's all about the brand, because it's the first thing you see, and sometimes the last thing you see.
Yeah.
In terms of like the service.
Yeah.
Everything's very transactional, so the brand should always be the forefront of the service.
I agree.
In my opinion.
Thanks, totally.
One thing we've kind of coined is kind of like content as well. We haven't done too much of it yet, because we could go crazy with it for some reasons. But in terms of photos, we found that sometimes with some properties, we've been booked just off of those.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's not. Sometimes when we have a new listing and there's no photos, it will be booked anyway because of the optimization.
Sure.
But sometimes properties are booked just from photos.
Yeah.
With nothing done to the listing because it's just gone live.
It's amazing.
So it is really that balance in terms of the branding carries so much weight.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think one thing I've always said to now clients like you who are getting into the scale of like 50s and 100s, one day if you ever want to sell the business, you can't sell Jamie and Matt.
No.
You've got to sell the business.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where the branding comes in place. And sometimes when people go, I've only got 1 unit, do I need to build a brand? I'm like, it depends on what you want to do. Yeah, and you want to start that process. And I think, Matt, for you, because again, I've worked with you on a personal level, what was it like working with me? Because I think a lot of people watching this video right now, they're all the same.
Yeah.
You know, they watch my video, they're not sure. They see a glimpse of my online stuff, like you did, Jamie, but not sure. Like, what would you say about us as a brand and me?
I mean, yeah, I think your brand definitely carries a lot of weight now. I know a lot of people that have worked with you, and it's all out of word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Because you can say, I can do this for you, I can do that for you, but you're able to show the results from people you've worked with. And that's the same thing that goes for us when we've built our management companies. It's not from us telling people we can get you X amount of money or we can get you this and that. It's, hey, this is currently what we're doing. We don't promise that, but here's what we're doing. So that carries a massive weight. And just trust as well, because you know a lot of these people are giving you their whole investment, and sometimes it's all their money. They've risked everything for this. And they're like, I now have to trust you with it. And if you don't build a brand, you're just a nobody. You ain't got an Instagram, you ain't got a website. They're probably not going to trust you with their last penny. So,
absolutely. And what was it like working with my team? Because I know my team's always like active, and something that I, when you said about 10 minutes reply, my team, I said half an hour max. Make sure that GrowYourBnb clients gets a reply within 30 minutes. That's always what I lived by, and I panic sometimes because if it's not been replied, I'm like, we still have those mistakes, and I'm like, who's taking this client? Like, can you urgently? So sometimes those bad moments come in business. So how has it been working with my team? Because I've always wanted it to be a hands-free business for me, but also for our clients. And you've experienced that.
Yeah. I think they were very respectful, and anything they couldn't answer, there was like, hey, Piers will be, I forward this to Piers and Piers will be in touch.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was quite nice as well, like just a random check-in. And we've kind of utilised that from learning from you, that we now just do random check-ins with our guests, especially if they're there for long term. Hey, how are you? How's everything? I hope you're well.
Yeah.
And they respect you for it. And they do come back, because the guest just thinks, by randomly checking in, you just don't know, they might randomly extend.
Yeah.
We've had that before, with when we just started learning the long-term stays, we turned up to the house, we made them a barbecue.
I love that. I'd love to be your guest.
Do you remember when we took all the food in? Because they turned up to check in early, and we were all doing the garden at the front to de-weed it. And just as we do, there's not in my opinion, there's not a more reactive management company. We are there doing it personally, right? Because we love it. Yeah. We're doing the garden, a little bit behind on the clean, but they've turned up early anyway, so, you know. Yeah. And they've got all their freezer food. There's a family of 6, they've got camper vans, and we just literally took all their shopping up, didn't we? Put it in the fridge and freezer, and just rest assured we'll be done in half an hour.
Fantastic, amazing.
And both times we've ever been round in person, they've always extended.
Amazing. Good. Guys, I think, look, to end this video, I always like to ask this, well, one thing is your biggest bookings. I love to know your biggest bookings. What has it been?
I don't even know what the biggest is.
You said 30 grand earlier, so that was one of them.
Yeah, so...
Was it the 2 16s that we split, but it was the one?
Yeah. 2 16s that we split, but it was the one. Yeah. So we took one and sent one away. So the biggest booking that we've ever taken ourselves... we get so many.
You still took 30 grand as a business. It came to you. Sadly, you didn't have the property, so you had to give it to some. So, but just in general,
probably that one.
We just sent the 53 night away. We just took the 8 weeks. We passed that on. So yeah, about 2 months currently. 2 to 3 months is our biggest.
Amazing. Well, look, I've had a pleasure. I've always wanted to sit down with you, Matt. I think we've spoken about this a while, and Jamie to come in and join us today as well. I firstly really appreciate your time. I'm sure viewers watching this will probably think it's something too good to be true, right? So I think to stop that, I want them to follow you on social. So One Stop Management.
So yeah, One Stop Shortlets.
One Stop Shortlets, yeah. That's how we can find them.
Mine is Matt_OneStop.
One Stop, okay, amazing.
And I'm Jay Flowstate.
Look, guys, please make sure you go and follow them, because these guys are growing their journey. They are obviously helping people understand how Airbnb business works in the right way, and also the hustle mentality that you guys are putting in right now, which I'm a big, I've got so much time for you guys. If you need anything from me, as always, Matt, you always pick up a phone call anyway, so please drop me a message. But thank you so much for taking time out today and doing this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe and share, and I'll be back with another video soon.